The group's next single was to be another pro-drug song. This release, however, would go on to become a true classic of the 1960s.
Over bridge of sighs, to rest my eyes in shades of green.
Pop, you know, and it was fun, and it was very much Ronnie and Ronnie's type of humour, and I think Steve changed a bit of the middle of the song by speeding things up, and I think that was his contribution. I mean, a lot of the stuff they wrote separately. You know, they didn't sort of sit down. I mean, it's the same for practically any great writing partnership that you can think of. Lennon and McCartney, Jagger and Richards, and they all kind of like, they'd have a song, you bring the demo, what do you think of this? Well, you might add this, you could change that, we could change the middle eight, you know, and all of a sudden it becomes a Lennon and McCartney number rather than a Paul McCartney number, which it probably actually really was, and the same thing is true of the Marriott Lane compositions to a large extent. There are one or two where it feels like they might have worked more closely on than, but by and large you can say, well, that's Marriott, that's Lane, you know, and Itchy Park was very much Ronnie Lane.
Itchy Park was mainly Ronnie's song, and Steve came in with the All Too Beautiful chorus, but it's mainly Ronnie's song. Great record, loads of lovely sound effects, sort of, you know, phasing effects, drum loops, things that were very much of the time. You know, psychedelia was taking over London, it was taking over the world, you know, and the Small Faces were very much sort of part of that scene in 1967. Itchy Park was a very clever record, you know, it was one of the first records to introduce some of those sound effects.
Special effects they used on that, like phasing on the drums and on the keyboards as well, were all rather part and parcel of the success of Itchy Park. It's just such a unique sound, and it made it such a huge hit.
Their psychedelic masterpiece. I mean, it's very clever sonically. It's one of the first records that use phasing in that way. The lyric is very interesting. Again, there's a certain English whimsy in there as well. You know, there's the reference to feeding buns to the ducks or whatever it is. And there was that strong sort of Lewis Carroll whimsical element in a lot of psychedelia. Syd Barrett had it as well, for example, and it's very strong in that song. And it's one of those records that I think every time you hear it, certainly if you were alive at that time, it automatically evokes the time in which it was made. I mean, anybody who was around in 1967, I don't think you can hear that record and not be taken back there.
Because Itchy Park was actually banned by the BBC. When it was first sent up to the BBC, they went, there's no way we're playing this, because the lyrics, I get high. So they had to come up with a story. Now there's two conflicting things. Tony Calder told me that they came up with Itchy Park as a kind of play area where they played as kids, but there wasn't actually a place called that. That it was actually something that they made up. No, it's all right, it's Itchy Park, we played there as kids. And when we were on the swings, that's when we got high. This is and the BBC said, oh really, okay old chap, okay fine. And put it out.
It was also the band's one and only hit single in America, which is rather shocking, really, the fact that they ignored all those marvellous records that the Small Faces were making. But it was a brilliant production, great performance too, although some people have said that it kind of tarred them with this brush of being a novelty band, sort of jolly, sort of cockney sort of band, music hall kind of vibe to it, sort of Chas and Dave of the 60s in one respect.